Russell Sullivan stood at the kitchen island, coffee in hand, watching his wife Vanessa prepare breakfast for their 7-year-old daughter, Mia. The morning sunlight filtered through the windows of their suburban Boston home, casting a golden glow over the domestic scene. To anyone looking in, they were the picture of American success. Russell, a former military intelligence specialist, turned high-end security consultant. Vanessa, a brilliant biochemist at Helix Innovations, and their precocious daughter, who had Russell's striking blue eyes and analytical mind. "Daddy, can we go to the park after school?" Maya asked, her legs swinging beneath the kitchen stool. Russell smiled. "Weather report says sunny all afternoon. I think we can make that happen." Vanessa slid a plate of pancakes toward their daughter. "Just don't forget I have that late meeting tonight. Dr. Phillips wants to review the new protocol before next week's presentation." Russell noticed the slight tension in his wife's shoulders, something he'd been observing more frequently over the past few months. His years in intelligence had trained him to detect micro-expressions, those fleeting tells that betrayed inner thoughts. Lately, Vanessa had been displaying more than a few. "Third late meeting this week," Russell remarked casually. "Phillips must be driving everyone hard for this project. The Phoenix Protocol is going to revolutionize genetic therapy," Vanessa replied without meeting his eyes. "The pressure is intense." Russell nodded, filing away another observation. Vanessa's phone buzzed on the counter. She snatched it up with unusual speed, glanced at the screen, and quickly silenced it. "Work?" he asked. "Always," she said with a tight smile. Russell checked his watch. "I should head out. Got a consultation with that tech startup downtown." He kissed Mia on the forehead. "Be good at school today, kiddo." Outside, Russell sat in his car, but didn't start the engine immediately. Instead, he pulled out his phone and opened an app that most people wouldn't recognize, a custom security program he designed that logged Vanessa's recent call history through their shared family plan for calls from the same number in the past week, all during her supposed late meetings. The number belonged to Dr. Leonard Brooks, Vanessa's colleague at Helix. Russell had first noticed the patterns 3 months ago. The late nights, the secretive texts, the subtle change in how she carried herself. He hadn't confronted her yet. In his experience, incomplete intelligence led to strategic failure. He needed more data. That afternoon, Russell picked up Mia from school as promised, making sure to keep his promise to her and enjoy the rare moment of calm between them. At the playground, he watched Mia climb the jungle gym with the fearlessness that always made him proud. "Watch me, Daddy," she called, scaling to the top. "I see you, Mia. Careful up there." The words had barely left his mouth when Mia reached for a bar slightly beyond her grasp. Her fingers slipped, and Russell was already moving as she lost balance and fell. Despite his quick reaction, he couldn't reach her before she hit the ground with a sickening crack, her left arm taking the brunt of the impact. Her scream cut through the peaceful afternoon, shattering the calm. The emergency room was a flurry of activity as nurses and doctors attended to Mia. Russell stood vigil beside her bed, his calm exterior masking the turmoil inside. He called Vanessa twice before finally reaching her. "I'll be there as soon as I can," she promised, voice tight with worry. "I'm leaving the lab now." Dr. Tanner, a middle-aged man with gentle eyes and a reassuring demeanor, returned with Mia's x-rays. "The break is clean," he explained to Russell. "She'll need a cast, but children heal quickly. She should be back to normal in about 6 weeks." Russell nodded, relief washing over him. "Thank you, Doctor." Dr. Tanner slid the x-ray onto the light box for Russell to see. "This is the fracture here," he said, pointing to a clear break in the ulna. Then the doctor's finger moved to another area of the image, and his brow furrowed. "Is something wrong?" Russell asked, instantly alert. Dr. Tanner leaned closer to the x-ray. "That's unusual." "What is it?" Russell pressed. The doctor pointed to what appeared to be small, irregular densities within the bone structure itself. "I've never seen this pattern before." These formations within the bone. He looked puzzled. They almost look like. The curtain around Mia's bed pulled back as Vanessa rushed in. "Oh my goodness, Mia." She hurried to their daughter's side, stroking her hair. "Are you okay, baby?" "It hurts, Mommy," Mia whimpered. Russell watched his wife carefully. "The doctor was just showing me something strange on Mia's x-ray." Vanessa's eyes darted to the light box. For a split second, Russell saw it. Recognition, then fear. Dr. Tanner cleared his throat. "Mrs. Sullivan, there are some unusual formations in your daughter's bone structure. I'd like to run some additional tests." "Is it serious?" Russell asked, though his attention remained fixed on his wife's reaction. "Probably nothing to worry about," Dr. Tanner said, though his expression suggested otherwise. "But I'd like to consult with a specialist." Russell noticed Vanessa's hands trembling slightly as she clutched her purse. "What kind of specialist?" she asked, her voice strained. "A geneticist, for starters," Dr. Tanner replied. "The formations appear to be, well, the best way I can describe it is that they look like cellular structures that shouldn't be there, almost as if two different types of bone cells are growing together." Vanessa's face paled. "We'll need to take a small bone marrow sample," Dr. Tanner added gently, preparing them for the next steps. Dr. Tanner continued, "With your permission, of course." Russell placed a hand on Mia's shoulder. "Of course, whatever Mia needs." Dr. Tanner nodded and excused himself to make arrangements. When he was gone, Russell turned to his wife. "You recognize something in that x-ray," he said quietly. "What was it?" Vanessa shook her head. "I don't know what you mean." Russell was about to press further when his phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. "Is everything okay with Mia?" Vanessa isn't answering. Russell's jaw tightened. He showed the message to Vanessa, whose face drained of color. "Who's asking about our daughter, Vanessa?" Before she could answer, Dr. Tanner returned with a specialist, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. "Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan, I'm Dr. Abigail West, head of genetics at Boston Memorial," she said, studying the x-ray intently. "We need to run more comprehensive tests immediately." She turned to them with a grave expression. "There is something inside your daughter's bones that, quite frankly, should be impossible." The following days passed in a blur of tests and specialists. Mia, resilient as ever, seemed more annoyed by the hospital staff than frightened by it. Russell maintained his composed facade while methodically gathering information. Dr. West had requested a full genetic workup, samples from both parents for comparison, and had consulted with colleagues across the country. When she finally called them into her office for a private consultation, her expression was troubled. "Please, sit down," she said, gesturing to the chairs across from her desk. Russell and Vanessa sat side by side, no longer the united front they once were. The tension between them was palpable. Dr. West pulled up several images on her computer screen. "These are microscopic images of Mia's bone structure." She pointed to what looked like a cellular mosaic. "This is what we call cellular chimerism, where an individual has two distinct genetic signatures, like twins that merged in the womb." "Similar, but much more complex," Dr. West replied. "Chimerism occurs naturally in rare cases, but Mia's case is—" She hesitated, concern etched on her face. "Unprecedented." She clicked to another screen showing genetic sequences. "We compared Mia's DNA with both of yours. As expected, she shares markers with both parents. However, she highlighted a section of the genetic code. This section here shares no markers with you, Mr. Sullivan." Russell's expression remained impassive. "Are you saying I'm not Mia's biological father?" "That's where it gets complicated," Dr. West said. "Some of Mia's cells show you as the father, while others indicate a different paternal source. But the distribution isn't random. It's targeted to specific tissue types. Her bone marrow, in particular, shows a deliberate integration of foreign genetic material." Vanessa stared at her hands, silent tears streaming down her face. The room filled with a charged silence, as each person tried to process the unsettling information. "What you're describing sounds like genetic engineering," Russell said evenly. Dr. West nodded grimly. "That's our conclusion as well. This isn't natural chimerism. Someone has deliberately altered Mia's genetic structure at a cellular level, something that should be technologically impossible with current medical science." She looked directly at Vanessa. "Mrs. Sullivan, given your position at Helix Innovations, I was hoping you might provide some insight." Russell turned to his wife. "Yes, Vanessa. Perhaps you could explain how our daughter became a genetic experiment." Vanessa's composure crumbled. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," she whispered. "The modifications were meant to be temporary, therapeutic. They were never supposed to integrate permanently." The admission hung in the air like a shadow over their marriage. Russell felt a cold anger building inside him, but his voice remained controlled. "Who is he, Vanessa?" She looked up, startled by the question. "The other genetic donor," Russell clarified. "Your colleague, Leon Brooks. The one who's been texting you about our daughter." Dr. West shifted uncomfortably. "I should give you two some privacy." "No," Russell said firmly. "I want a witness to what happens next. My wife is about to explain how and why she allowed someone to experiment on our child." Vanessa took a shuddering breath. "Leon and we've been working on the Phoenix Protocol for years. It's a revolutionary approach to genetic therapy that could cure countless diseases." "And your relationship?" Russell's voice was glacial. "How long has that been going on?" 18 months, she admitted. "But this isn't about us. The protocol wasn't ready for human trials. But when Mia developed those early signs of juvenile arthritis 2 years ago," Russell's mind flashed back to their daughter's mysterious joint pain that had vanished as suddenly as it began. "You used our daughter as a test subject." "We were trying to help her," Vanessa protested. "The protocol worked. Her arthritis is gone." "By permanently altering her DNA," Russell stated, "without my knowledge or consent." Dr. West interjected. "Mrs. Sullivan, you realize what you're describing violates every ethical guideline in medical research, not to mention federal law." Vanessa buried her face in her hands. "It was supposed to be temporary. The genetic material was designed to degrade after serving its purpose. Except it didn't," Russell observed coldly. "Instead, it integrated into her bone structure." A chilling thought occurred to him. "Does Helix know about this?" Vanessa's silence was answer enough. Russell stood up straighter. "Dr. West, I'll need copies of all these test results." "Of course," the doctor replied. "But there's something else you should know. The foreign genetic material in Mia's system appears to be spreading. It's slow, but the integration is continuing. We don't know what the long-term effects might be." Russell looked down at his wife, who couldn't meet his eyes. "Then we'll need to find someone who does." The weight of their choices pressed in, the future uncertain yet demanding action. In that moment, as he stared at the woman he'd loved for a decade, Russell Sullivan made a silent vow. Everyone involved in turning his daughter into an experiment would pay, starting with his wife and her lover. And he would be utterly without mercy. Russell sat in his home office, surrounded by 3 monitors displaying different streams of information. It had been 2 weeks since Mia's diagnosis, and he had spent every waking moment gathering intelligence. His security consulting business had been put on hold. His current operation took precedence over everything else. Mia was still in the hospital under Dr. West's care. The genetic changes in her system had begun causing complications, low-grade fevers, fatigue, unexplained pain. The medical team was monitoring her closely, trying to understand what was happening to her body. Vanessa had moved out at Russell's insistence, taking a small apartment nearby to remain close to Mia. Russell had allowed this only because cutting off Vanessa's access to their daughter would have raised suspicions. He needed everyone involved to believe he was simply a distraught father, focused solely on his child's well-being. In reality, Russell Sullivan had reverted to the man he'd been in military intelligence, methodical, relentless, and dangerous. On his center monitor was a comprehensive profile of Dr. Leonard Brooks, 43, a brilliant geneticist with specializations in recombinant DNA technologies. Divorced, no children. Brooks had joined Helix Innovations 6 years ago after leaving a prestigious position at MIT under mysterious circumstances. According to the records Russell had obtained through his military contacts, Brooks had been dismissed from a classified DARPA project for ethical concerns regarding testing protocols. The left monitor displayed Helix Innovations' corporate structure, financial records, and most importantly, their classified research directory that Russell had accessed through backdoor channels he'd maintained from his intelligence days. The right monitor showed surveillance photos of Brooks and Vanessa together at restaurants, entering his downtown apartment building, and in the Helix parking garage. Russell had hired a private investigator to document their affair, but he'd taken over the surveillance himself in recent days. His phone rang. It was Dr. West. "Mr. Sullivan, we've completed the latest tests on Mia," she said when he answered. "I'd like to discuss the results in person." "I'll be there in 30 minutes, Russell replied. Before leaving, he checked one final piece of information. The location tracking on Vanessa's phone showed she was at Helix Innovations, likely with Brooks. "Perfect," he muttered to himself. At the hospital, Dr. West looked exhausted. "We've identified the mechanism behind the genetic integration," she explained in her office. "It's an engineered retrovirus, designed to deliver genetic material directly into the cellular DNA. It's unlike anything I've seen before," Dr. West said. "Is it harmful? That's the question, isn't it?" she continued. "The integration itself seems targeted to enhance certain cellular functions: improved immune response, accelerated healing, enhanced cellular regeneration. In theory, beneficial changes. But the system is unstable. The viral vectors were clearly designed to self-terminate after delivery, but something's gone wrong. They're continuing to replicate and spread." Russell leaned forward. "What does that mean for Mia?" Dr. West sighed. "Best case scenario. The process stabilizes, and she develops some enhanced physiological capabilities. Worst case, systemic organ failure as her own immune system attacks the altered cells." Russell felt cold fury rising within him. "What do you need to stop this?" "The original research would help. If I could see the exact viral design, I might be able to create something to counteract it. But this kind of work is certainly classified." "I'll get it for you," Russell promised. Dr. West looked skeptical. "Helix won't release proprietary research, especially something as ethically questionable as this." Russell's expression was grim. "I didn't say anything about asking permission." Later that evening, Russell sat in his parked car outside Leon Brooks' downtown apartment building. His laptop displayed the building's security systems, which he'd already compromised. Brooks lived alone in a luxury penthouse, the kind of accommodation that seemed beyond the salary of even a senior researcher. Around midnight, he watched through hacked security cameras as Brooks arrived home alone. Russell waited another hour before making his move. The building's electronic locks were easily bypassed with equipment from his consulting work. The penthouse's private security system was more sophisticated but still yielded to Russell's expertise in under 2 minutes. He moved silently through the darkened apartment, a ghost in black tactical gear. When he reached the bedroom door, he paused, listening to Brooks' steady breathing. Then, with practiced efficiency, he entered and administered a sedative injection before Brooks could fully wake. "What the?" was all Brooks managed before slipping back into unconsciousness. Russell methodically searched the apartment, finding what he needed in a home office hidden behind a bookcase, an encrypted external hard drive. He accessed Brooks' computer, bypassed the security, and began copying files. While the download progressed, Russell explored further. In a hidden safe behind an abstract painting, he discovered documents detailing offshore accounts containing millions of dollars. The source of the funds was listed only as Phoenix Benefactor. When the file transfer completed, Russell stood over Brooks' unconscious form. It would be so easy to end him now. A simple adjustment to the IV drip Russell had established to keep him sedated. No one would question a healthy man having a sudden cardiac event, but Russell had other plans. He needed information, and Brooks was the key to unlocking the secrets of the Phoenix Protocol. But that would be too merciful. Death was a release, not a punishment, and Russell was just getting started. Instead, he left behind a small surveillance device, hidden in Brooks' bedroom light fixture and another in his home office. Knowledge was power, and Russell intended to know everything before he made his next move. 3 days later, Russell sat beside Mia's hospital bed, reading her favorite story as she drifted to sleep. Her condition had stabilized somewhat, but the dark circles under her eyes and her pale complexion were constant reminders of what had been done to her. "Daddy," she murmured sleepily. "Yes, sweetheart. When can I go home?" Russell stroked her hair gently. "Soon, I hope. The doctors are working very hard to make you better." "Is Mom coming to visit today?" A flash of anger surged through him, but he kept his voice gentle. "She has to work, but she'll come tomorrow." In truth, Russell had begun restricting Vanessa's hospital visits, using his growing file of evidence about her involvement in illegal experimentation as leverage. She was allowed to see Mia only when Russell permitted it, a cruel but necessary measure to ensure her cooperation with his investigation. After Maya fell asleep, Russell met with Dr. West in the hospital cafeteria. He slid a flash drive across the table. "Everything I could find on the Phoenix Protocol," he said quietly. "I suggest you review it somewhere private." Dr. West pocketed the drive without comment. "Mia's condition has stabilized for now, but we need a more permanent solution." "There's something else you should know," Russell said. "This wasn't just experimental treatment for juvenile arthritis. The Phoenix Protocol is a much larger project with military applications." Dr. West's eyebrows shot up. "Military, enhanced healing, increased strength, improved cognitive function. These are the holy grails of military enhancement programs. The materials I found suggest Helix has a classified contract with a private military contractor called Cerberus Operations. That would explain the level of sophistication," Dr. West mused. "But using a child as a test subject is unforgivable." Russell finished for her. "The question is, how much did Vanessa know about the bigger picture?" To answer that question, Russell had arranged to meet his wife at a quiet coffee shop away from both the hospital and Helix. She arrived looking haggard, the strain of the past weeks evident on her face. "How was she?" Vanessa asked immediately. "Stable," Russell replied coldly. "Dr. West is reviewing the research protocols I obtained." Vanessa's eyes widened. "You broke into Helix's systems." "I did what was necessary to save our daughter," he countered. "Something you might have considered before turning her into a science experiment." Vanessa looked down at her untouched coffee. "It wasn't like that. We were trying to help her by injecting her with experimental retroviruses carrying Brooks' DNA." Russell's voice was razor-sharp despite its low volume. "Was that before or after you started seeing him?" "After," she admitted quietly. "But that's not why I agreed to the procedure. You have to believe me, Russell. Mia's arthritis was worse than we told you. The conventional treatments weren't working. She was in constant pain. So you decided to play God with her genetics, without discussing it with me. Leon assured me it was safe. The vectors were designed to deliver the therapeutic genes, and then self-destruct." Russell leaned forward. "And did you know about Cerberus Operations? About the military applications?" Vanessa's expression shifted from guilt to confusion. "What are you talking about?" Russell studied her carefully, looking for signs of deception. Finding none, he continued. "Your colleague has been selling Helix's research to a private military contractor. The Phoenix Protocol isn't just about curing diseases. It's about creating enhanced soldiers." The color drained from Vanessa's face. "That's not possible. The protocol is strictly therapeutic." "The offshore accounts suggest otherwise," Russell said, sliding photos of the financial documents across the table. Your friend has received over $15 million from Cerberus in the past 3 years. Vanessa stared at the evidence, hands shaking. I didn't know, she whispered. I swear to everything, Russell. I didn't know. For the first time, Russell believed her, but it changed nothing. Ignorance doesn't absolve you, he said coldly. You still allowed him to use our daughter as a test subject. What are you going to do? Vanessa asked, fear evident in her voice. Russell stood, his expression unreadable. Whatever it takes to save Mia, and make everyone responsible pay for what they've done. He paused, his eyes hard. Starting with Brooks. And if necessary, ending with you. Later that night, Russell's surveillance equipment captured a heated argument between Vanessa and Brooks in his penthouse. You used me. Vanessa screamed, throwing the financial documents at him. You used me to get to Mia. Brooks remained calm. Don't be dramatic, Vanessa. The procedure helped your daughter. The fact that it provided valuable data for our other projects is just efficient research design. Other projects? You mean your illegal military contracts? You told me Phoenix was about curing genetic diseases. And it is, Brooks insisted. Enhanced healing, improved immunity. These have civilian applications too. But Helix needs funding, and the military pays better than hospitals. You put my daughter's life at risk. Brooks' expression hardened. Our daughter, Vanessa. Or have you forgotten that part? Russell froze the video, zooming in on Vanessa's shocked expression. The revelation hit him like a physical blow. Brooks was Mia's biological father. His entire world collapsed around him in that instant. Every memory, every moment with Mia, suddenly tinged with betrayal and heartache. The child he'd raised as his own for 7 years wasn't his. But as the initial shock subsided, a cold clarity took its place. Biology didn't matter. Mia was his daughter in every way that counted. And now he had even more reason to destroy the people who had betrayed him. The next morning, Russell arrived at Dr. West's office to find her looking both excited and disturbed. The data you provided is extraordinary, she said without preamble. The Phoenix protocol is decades ahead of current genetic therapy techniques, but it's also deeply concerning. How so? Russell asked. The viral vectors were designed with multiple safeguards to prevent exactly what's happening to Mia. For those safeguards to fail so completely, she shook her head. It wasn't an accident. Russell's expression darkened. You think someone deliberately modified the treatment to make the changes permanent. More than that, Dr. West explained. The version administered to Mia appears specifically designed to integrate the donor's DNA permanently into her cellular structure. It's as if someone wanted to create a genetic legacy that couldn't be erased. Brooks, Russell muttered. He wanted to literally put his mark on her at a genetic level. There's something else, Dr. West continued. I found references to a compound called PT27 that should be able to halt the viral replication and stabilize Mia's condition. But it's not included in any of these files. Where would it be? Based on these notes, it exists only at Helix's secure laboratory facility. It's part of the fail-safe protocols for their military trials. Russell stood. Then that's where I'm going next. Before he could leave, Dr. West grabbed his arm. Mr. Sullivan, there's something you should know about Mia's genetic profile. Russell steeled himself. She's not biologically mine. I already know. Dr. West looked surprised. Actually, that's not entirely accurate. Mia's original DNA, before the Phoenix procedure, shows you as her biological father. The foreign DNA was introduced through the treatment, not conception. Relief flooded through Russell, followed immediately by confusion. But I heard Brooks claim he was her father. Biologically speaking, he's trying to become her father through this procedure. The foreign DNA is gradually replacing portions of her original genetic code, specifically the portions she inherited from you. The implications hit Russell like a sledgehammer. This wasn't just an experimental treatment gone wrong. This was Brooks trying to erase Russell from Mia's very existence, replacing her genetic father one cell at a time. The PT-27 compound, Russell said, his voice deadly calm. How quickly can it stop this process? According to these notes, it should halt the viral replication immediately. With follow-up treatments, it might even reverse some of the changes, though not all of them. I'll get it, Russell promised. Whatever it takes. With resolve hardening inside him, Russell prepared for the most important mission of his life, one where failure was not an option. That evening, Russell met with an old contact from his military days, Dominic Foster, a former Delta Force operator who now worked in private security. I need to access a secure laboratory, Russell explained in Dom's sparse apartment. Dom raised an eyebrow. Breaking and entering isn't exactly my specialty. This isn't a standard security job, Russell admitted. The target is Helix Innovations' main research facility. Maximum security, biometric access, armed guards. Sounds like a suicide mission, Dom commented. What's so important in there? A compound that will save my daughter's life. Dom's expression softened slightly. The little girl you always talk about. Mia. Russell nodded. All right, Dom sighed. I'm not saying yes, but let me see what we're dealing with. Russell pulled out blueprints of the Helix facility, security protocols, guard rotations, all obtained through his intelligence contacts and hacking efforts. Jesus, Russell, Dom muttered as he reviewed the materials. You've been busy. I have sources inside Helix, Russell explained. Vanessa's key card will get us past the first layer of security, but the lab itself requires palm print and retinal scanning. Your wife is helping you break into her company. Not willingly, Russell admitted, but she'll cooperate if she wants to continue seeing Mia. Dom studied his friend carefully. This isn't just about getting medicine, is it? What's really going on, Russell? Russell hesitated, then told Dom everything. The affair, the illegal experimentation, Brooks' attempt to genetically replace him as Mia's father. When he finished, Dom let out a low whistle. Man, when you get betrayed, you really go all in. He paused. What's your endgame here? Because breaking into a secured lab is just the beginning. First, I save Mia, Russell said firmly. Then I make sure everyone involved in this pays for what they've done. Brooks, Vanessa, Helix, Cerberus operations, all of them. That's a tall order, even for someone with your skills. I don't need to take them all down at once, Russell explained. I just need to engineer the right dominoes to fall in the right sequence. Create a chain reaction they can't stop. Dom nodded slowly. All right, I'm in. When do we move? 3 days, Russell replied. I need to gather a few more critical pieces of information first. The first piece came later that night, when Russell's surveillance equipment captured Brooks on a video call with a distinguished-looking man identified only as director. The Sullivan girls' integration is progressing faster than anticipated, Brooks reported. The genetic replacement rate has exceeded our projections by 42%. Excellent, the director replied. And the side effects? Manageable. Some fever, fatigue, nothing that raises suspicions beyond normal medical concerns. What about the father? Any complications there? Brooks smirked. Sullivan suspects nothing about the broader implications. He believes this was simply a treatment gone wrong. Good, the director said, a hint of menace in his voice, as if content that their dangerous plan remained hidden. The director frowned. Dr. Sullivan's continued cooperation is preferred, but not essential at this stage. If she becomes a liability, remove her from the equation. Understood, Brooks replied. The second piece fell into place when Russell hacked into Brooks' Helix email account and discovered communications with Cerberus operations detailing Phase 2 of the Phoenix Protocol. The deliberate infection of targeted individuals with the modified retroviruses through their children, creating a genetic beacon network for purposes that remained unclear, but ominous. The final piece came from Dr. West, who called Russell with an urgent update. Mia's condition is accelerating, she reported grimly. The foreign DNA integration has reached 38% of her cellular structure. If it crosses 50%, I don't think we can reverse it. How long do we have? Russell asked. At the current rate, 5 days, maybe less. Russell's timetable had just been moved up. He called Dom immediately. We move tomorrow night, he said without preamble. Mia is running out of time. As he prepared for the operation, Russell thought about how much his life had changed in just a few weeks. He had gone from a successful consultant with a seemingly perfect family to a man on the edge, planning to commit multiple felonies to save the daughter who had been used as a pawn in a game he didn't even know was being played. But one thing remained constant: his love for Mia and his determination to protect her, no matter the cost, and his resolve that those who had betrayed them both would face a reckoning unlike anything they could imagine. The Helix Innovations Research Campus was a marvel of modern architecture, glass and steel gleaming under the moonlight. But tonight, Russell saw it only as a fortress to be breached, a barrier between Mia and her survival. Security patrol passes the east entrance every 12 minutes, Dom murmured over their encrypted comlink. You'll have a 90-second window after I trigger the distraction. Russell checked his watch. Copy that. Standing by. They had forced Vanessa to provide her keycard and detailed information about the laboratory layout. Russell had recorded their conversation for leverage. If anything happens to Mia because you withheld information, he had told her coldly, the FBI will receive evidence of your involvement in illegal human experimentation on a minor. Your career and freedom will be over. Her tear-streaked face had haunted him briefly before he pushed the image aside. Sentiment was a luxury he could no longer afford. On the opposite side of the campus, Dom triggered a small explosion in a maintenance shed. As predicted, the security team responded immediately, drawing attention away from the east entrance. Russell moved swiftly, using Vanessa's keycard to access the building. Inside, he navigated through darkened corridors, avoiding the skeleton night shift staff with practiced ease. His military training had prepared him for operations far more complex than this. The secure laboratory was located on the basement level, protected by multiple security systems. Russell used a device he had created to spoof the biometric scanner, tricking it into recognizing his palm print as Vanessa's. For the retinal scanner, he used a more elegant solution: high-resolution contact lenses printed with Vanessa's retinal pattern, obtained from her medical records. The laboratory door slid open with a soft hiss. Russell moved methodically through the sterile space, locating the storage unit described in the files. Inside, organized in neat rows, were vials of various compounds, each labeled with alphanumeric codes. He found PT-27 exactly where Brooks' notes had indicated. The clear liquid looked utterly unremarkable, belying its critical importance. Russell carefully placed 4 vials in his specialized carrying case. As he prepared to leave, his attention was caught by a separate storage unit labeled Phoenix Prime. Inside was a single vial containing a dark red substance. According to the research he'd uncovered, this was the master sample of the original Phoenix retrovirus, the template from which all variants, including the one used on Mia, had been created. Russell hesitated only briefly before taking this vial as well. It might prove useful to Dr. West in developing a more permanent treatment for Mia. He was nearly at the exit when the laboratory lights suddenly came on. Russell ducked behind a workstation as the door opened. "I don't care what time it is," Brooks' voice echoed through the lab. "The director wants an update on the Sullivan samples immediately." Russell remained perfectly still, controlling his breathing as Brooks moved through the laboratory, accompanied by a younger researcher who looked visibly nervous. "Dr. Brooks, shouldn't we wait for Dr. Sullivan's authorization? This is her project too." Brooks scoffed. "Vanessa has become a liability. Her maternal instincts are clouding her scientific judgment." "But the ethics committee." "The ethics committee sees what we want them to see," Brooks interrupted sharply. "Now, pull up the latest data on subject MS-7. Russell realized with a chill that MS7 must be Mia's designation in their twisted experiment. He fought the urge to confront Brooks then and there. That would come later, after Mia was safe. The younger researcher accessed a computer terminal, pulling up what appeared to be real-time biometric data. Integration rate continues to accelerate. Current cellular replacement at 41.3%. Brooks smiled. Excellent. And the synchronization with the primary donor. Neural pattern synchronization at 17%. If the trend continues, we should see threshold alignment within 10 to 14 days. Russell's blood ran cold. Neural pattern synchronization. What exactly were they doing to his daughter? He strained to listen, knowing every detail might be the key to Mia's survival. What about the father? Any complications from the hospital discovery? The researcher shook his head. He appears to be focused solely on treatment options. Dr. West has kept him occupied with conventional approaches. Russell's jaw tightened. Dr. West was working with them. The betrayal cut deep, but he maintained his composure. Now was not the time for confrontation. Good, Brooks replied. Once we reach 50% integration, the process becomes irreversible. After that, it won't matter what Sullivan knows or doesn't know. The two men continued working for what felt like an eternity. Finally, Brooks yawned and checked his watch. That's enough for tonight. Lock up when you're done. After they left, Russell waited 5 minutes before making his escape. Outside, he met Dom at their predetermined rendezvous point. Did you get it? Dom asked. Russell patted his case. And more. But we have a complication. Dr. West is working with them. Dom cursed under his breath. What's the play now? We can't trust the hospital team with Mia's treatment, Russell said grimly. We need an independent specialist who can administer the PT-27. I might know someone, Dom offered. Former military doctor, works off the books now for people who can't go through official channels. Set it up, Russell instructed. And I need a secure location to move Mia, somewhere Brooks and his people can't find her. Dom nodded. I've got a safe house in New Hampshire. Remote, defensible, and completely off the grid. Perfect. We move Mia tomorrow night. As they drove away from Helix, Russell's mind raced. The conspiracy was larger and more sinister than he had imagined. Neural pattern synchronization suggested they weren't just altering Mia's DNA. They were attempting to change her neural pathways, perhaps even her consciousness itself. He thought of Brooks's smug face, Vanessa's betrayal, and Dr. West's deception. Each one would pay for what they had done to his daughter. But first, he needed to get Mia to safety and begin her treatment. The pieces of his revenge were falling into place, but time was running out. The next evening, Russell arrived at Boston Memorial Hospital wearing the uniform of a private medical transport service. The forged paperwork authorizing Mia's transfer to a specialized pediatric facility was flawless, another product of Dom's extensive connections. Daddy, Mia exclaimed when he entered her room. Are we going home? Russell forced a smile. Not yet, sweetheart. We're going to a special doctor who can help you feel better faster. He helped her into a wheelchair, grateful that she was having one of her better days. As they moved through the hospital corridors, Russell remained vigilant, watching for any sign of Dr. West or hospital security. They reached the service elevator without incident. Dom was waiting in a modified ambulance in the loading area, the engine running. All set? Dom asked as Russell secured Mia in the back. Let's move, Russell replied, sealing the doors and feeling a weight lift slightly as they pulled away from the hospital, heading into the unknown, but prepared for anything. Russell confirmed, climbing in beside his daughter. They were barely out of the hospital parking lot when Russell's phone rang. It was Dr. West. Mr. Sullivan, where is Mia? She demanded when he answered. She's not in her room. She's safe, Russell replied coldly. Away from you and your colleagues at Helix. A pause. I don't know what you think you're doing. Neural pattern synchronization, Russell interrupted. Did you really think I wouldn't find out what you're doing to my daughter? Using her as a vessel for Brooke's consciousness. Another, longer pause. You don't understand the significance of what we're achieving. I understand perfectly. You're attempting to transfer one person's consciousness into another through genetic and neural manipulation. You're trying to make Brooks immortal by gradually overriding Mia's identity with his. It's more complex than that, Dr. West argued. The Phoenix Protocol represents the next stage of human evolution. Mia was chosen because her genetic structure was exceptionally compatible. She was chosen because Brooks wanted to replace me with himself, not just as her father, but in her very DNA, Russell countered. Tell your colleagues at Helix and Cerberus that Mia is no longer part of their experiment. You're making a terrible mistake, Dr. West warned. Mia needs specialized care that only we can provide. You've lost the right to treat my daughter, Russell said before ending the call. 3 hours later, they arrived at Dom's safe house, a modernized cabin deep in the New Hampshire woods. The property was surrounded by dense forest with a single access road that could be easily monitored. Inside, they were met by Dr. Maya Cortez, a former military physician with experience in experimental treatments. Dom had vouched for her discretion and competence. This is the compound, Dr. Cortez asked, examining the vials of PT-27. According to the research, it should halt the viral replication immediately, Russell explained, handing her the files he compiled. Dr. Cortez reviewed the materials with a professional eye. I'll need to run some preliminary tests before administering it, but the science seems sound. She looked at Mia, who had fallen asleep during the journey. How long since the initial treatment? About 2 years, Russell replied. But the integration has accelerated dramatically in recent weeks. That's consistent with what I'm seeing in these notes, Dr. Cortez confirmed. Once the integration reaches a certain threshold, it creates a cascade effect. She looked up at Russell. You realize that even if we stop the process, some of the changes will be permanent. Russell nodded grimly. As long as she remains Mia, her thoughts, her personality, her soul, I can live with that. While Dr. Cortez prepared the treatment, Russell's phone buzzed with an alert from the surveillance system he'd installed in Brooks' apartment. He stepped outside to view the footage and saw Brooks pacing anxiously, speaking to someone on the phone. The atmosphere was tense, promising new developments that could threaten everything Russell was fighting for. She's gone, Brooks was saying. Sullivan took her from the hospital. A pause as he listened to the other person. No, we can't go to the police. How would we explain what we're monitoring? Another pause. The integration was at 43% this morning. We have maybe 3 days before the window closes. Russell smiled coldly. They were panicking, which meant they would make mistakes. His phone rang. Vanessa. Where is she? His wife demanded, her voice frantic. Where did you take Maya? Somewhere safe, Russell replied. Away from you and Brooks and your experiments. Please, Vanessa begged. She needs proper medical care. Whatever you think is happening. I don't think. I know, Russell cut her off. I know about the neural synchronization. I know Brooks is trying to transfer his consciousness into our daughter. I know you've been helping him, whether willingly or not. Vanessa's sharp intake of breath told him she hadn't known the full extent of the project. That's not possible, she whispered. The Phoenix Protocol is about genetic therapy. Not. She faltered. Not what you're describing. Check the Phase 2 protocols, Russell suggested coldly. The files mark Lazarus option. Then decide if you want to continue defending a man who's trying to possess our daughter's mind. He ended the call and returned inside, where Dr. Cortez was preparing to administer the first dose of PT-27 to Mia. This should begin working immediately, Dr. Cortez explained. I'll monitor her vital signs and take blood samples every 4 hours to track the viral suppression. Russell nodded, taking Maya's small hand in his. You're going to be okay, sweetheart. Daddy's here. Hours passed as they waited for the treatment to take effect. Russell used the time to continue monitoring the fallout at Helix. His surveillance showed increasing panic among Brooks and his team as they realized the PT-27 compound was missing. Around midnight, Dr. Cortez approached with cautious optimism. The preliminary blood work shows the viral replication has slowed significantly. If this continues, we should see complete suppression within 24 hours. Relief washed over Russell, but he knew this was just the beginning. Stopping the process wasn't enough. Those responsible needed to pay for what they had done. The next morning, while Mia slept peacefully for the first time in weeks, Russell initiated the next phase of his plan. Using the sophisticated hacking tools from his consulting work, he accessed Helix's secure server and began downloading everything related to the Phoenix Protocol and Cerberus operations. The files revealed a conspiracy far more extensive than he had imagined. Cerberus wasn't just a private military contractor. It was a front for a cabal of wealthy elites seeking technological immortality, a secret war being waged on the very fabric of human identity. The Phoenix Protocol had been developed specifically to allow consciousness transfer from one body to another, with the ultimate goal of allowing these elites to extend their lives indefinitely by transferring their minds into younger bodies. Brooks had been using Mia as a proof of concept, with himself as the donor consciousness. If successful, the technique would be refined for the Cerberus principles. As Russell processed this horrific revelation, his phone rang. An unknown number. "Hello, Mr. Sullivan." The voice was cultured, authoritative. The same voice Russell had heard in Brooks' video call with the director. "Who is this?" Russell asked, though he already knew. "Someone with a proposition for you," the director replied smoothly. "Your daughter has become integral to a project of immense importance. Return her to our care, and you'll be generously compensated. $10 million, to be precise." "You want to buy my daughter so you can turn her into a vessel for Brooks' consciousness," Russell stated flatly. A slight pause. "I see Dr. Brooks has been indiscreet. Nevertheless, the offer stands. The process is already substantially complete. Fighting it now only puts your daughter at risk." "Here's my counteroffer," Russell said, his voice deadly calm. "Stop pursuing my daughter, or I release everything I've gathered about Phoenix, Cerberus, and your plans for technological immortality to every major news outlet and intelligence agency in the world." "You're bluffing," the director replied, though Russell detected a hint of uncertainty. "You don't have access to that information." Russell read off a string of names. The Cerberus principals, all wealthy and powerful individuals who valued their privacy above all else. "Should I continue? Perhaps with details about your neural mapping procedures." Silence on the other end of the line. "As we speak, encrypted files are being uploaded to secure servers around the world, set to automatically release if anything happens to me or my daughter," Russell continued. "Walk away now, and those files remain secured." "You're making a grave mistake," the director finally responded. "We have resources you can't imagine. And I have the truth," Russell countered. "Let's see which is more powerful." After ending the call, Russell knew he had bought them some time. But the threat was far from neutralized. Brooks, Vanessa, Dr. West, all of them remained liabilities as long as they knew Mia's location. It was time to eliminate those liabilities permanently. 3 days later, Mia's condition had improved dramatically. The PT-27 treatments had successfully halted the viral replication, and while some of the genetic changes were permanent, her core neural patterns remained intact. She was still Mia, in mind, spirit, and most of her DNA. Dr. Cortez had confirmed that the integration had stabilized at 46%, just short of the critical 50% threshold where Brooks' neural patterns would have begun to dominate. As the sun rose over the safe house, Russell knew the next phase of his plan was about to begin. "She'll need ongoing monitoring," Dr. Cortez explained. "But the immediate danger has passed." Russell nodded, watching his daughter drawing pictures at the kitchen table. Normal childhood activities that had seemed impossible just days ago. "Thank you," he said simply. "What will you do now?" Dr. Cortez asked quietly. Russell's expression hardened. "Finish this." While Mia remained safely at the cabin under Dom's protection, Russell traveled back to Boston to implement the final phase of his plan. It had taken days of meticulous preparation, but every element was now in place. His first stop was Leon Brooks' penthouse. The geneticist had been under constant surveillance since Mia's removal from the hospital, his movements tracked, his communications monitored. Russell knew exactly when the apartment would be empty. Inside, Russell moved with purpose, planting evidence that would be discovered later: financial records linking Brooks directly to illegal human experimentation, correspondence with the Cerberus principals discussing the use of unwitting subjects, and details of the consciousness transfer protocols. But Russell's true objective was more sophisticated. Using specialized equipment, he accessed Brooks' home computer and planted a custom virus designed to activate when Brooks accessed specific Phoenix protocol files. The virus would silently corrupt critical data while leaving surface-level information intact, ensuring that any attempts to recreate the experiment with another child would fail catastrophically. Next, Russell visited Vanessa's apartment. His wife had been desperate since Mia's disappearance, calling hospitals and even attempting to file a missing person report, which the police had dismissed after Russell provided documentation of his legal custody during Mia's specialized treatment. Russell let himself in using the key he still possessed. Vanessa wasn't home. She was at Helix, frantically trying to understand what had happened to the Phoenix protocol data, which had begun mysteriously corrupting throughout their systems. He placed a thick envelope on her kitchen counter containing divorce papers, evidence of her involvement in the illegal experimentation, and a USB drive with selected surveillance footage. Attached was a note with simple instructions. Sign the papers. Never contact Mia or me again. Disappear, or everything goes public. Russell knew Vanessa well enough to predict her response. She would choose self-preservation over martyrdom. The career she had sacrificed so much for, including her family, would remain intact, though she would carry the burden of her choices forever. His final destination was the most crucial and the most dangerous. The Cerberus operations headquarters occupied the top floors of a nondescript office building in downtown Boston. Security was formidable, but Russell had spent his career overcoming such obstacles. He donned a disguise, blending in with the evening crowd as he entered the building. The lobby was bustling with activity, providing ample cover as he made his way to the secure elevator. Using a cloned access card, he bypassed the biometric scanner and ascended to the top floor. The Cerberus offices were sleek and modern, filled with state-of-the-art technology and heavily armed guards. Russell moved silently, avoiding detection as he made his way to the main server room. Inside, he quickly set to work, planting additional viruses designed to wipe critical data and leave the organization in chaos. As he finished, he heard footsteps approaching. He slipped into a nearby supply closet, holding his breath as the guards passed by. Once they were gone, he made his way back to the elevator, descending to the lobby and disappearing into the night. Back in his car, Russell felt a sense of satisfaction. The pieces were in place, and the dominoes were about to fall. The next phase of his plan was about to begin, and he was ready for whatever came next. Using credentials stolen from Brooks' computer, Russell gained access to the executive floor. The late hour ensured minimal staff presence. He moved silently through darkened corridors until he reached the director's office. The space was immaculate, with minimalist decor, cutting-edge technology, and floor-to-ceiling windows offering a commanding view of the city. Russell went straight to the computer terminal, inserting a specialized drive containing the most devastating cyber weapon in his arsenal. This wasn't just a virus or malware. It was a digital scorched earth protocol that would systematically destroy every piece of data related to Phoenix, while simultaneously transferring evidence of Cerberus illegal activities to encrypted servers controlled by Russell. As the program began its work, Russell heard the office door open behind him. I expected someone like you would find your way here eventually, the director's cultured voice said. Though I admit, it took you less time than anticipated. Russell turned slowly. The director was older than he had appeared in the video call, perhaps in his 70s, with silver hair and the confident bearing of someone accustomed to power. You understand what I'm doing? Russell asked, nodding toward the computer where the program continued its silent destruction. Erasing our life's work, the director replied with surprising calm. A setback, to be sure, but not insurmountable. You're never going to stop, are you? Russell observed. Even after what you tried to do to my daughter. The director shrugged elegantly. Progress requires sacrifice, Mr. Sullivan. Humanity stands on the precipice of its greatest evolutionary leap. True immortality. Your daughter would have been remembered as a pioneer. She's 7 years old, Russell said, his voice tight with controlled rage. She deserves a life of her own, not to be hollowed out and used as a vessel for someone else's consciousness. A matter of perspective, the director replied. But it seems we've reached an impasse. What now? Do you kill me? Alert the authorities. Neither would stop what we've begun. Russell smiled coldly. I don't need to do either. He gestured to the computer. Right now, every piece of the Phoenix Protocol is being systematically erased from your systems. Simultaneously, your personal financial records, including those offshore accounts funding illegal human experimentation, are being transferred to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. The director's composed facade cracked slightly. You're bluffing. Check your phone, Russell suggested. The director pulled out his smartphone, which had begun vibrating with incoming messages. His expression darkened as he read the urgent alerts from his financial team. This is merely inconvenient, the director said, though his voice lacked its previous confidence. I have resources, connections, all of which will distance themselves once the evidence is public. Russell interrupted. You're right. It's inconvenient, but it's also the beginning of the end for you and your associates. The FBI will be here soon, and so will the media. Your name, your face, your crimes, all of it will be exposed for the world to see. You won't be able to hide behind your wealth or your connections anymore. The director's eyes narrowed, but Russell could see the fear lurking beneath his calm exterior. You think you've won, Sullivan, but this is just the first battle. We have plans in place, contingencies. You can't stop the inevitable. Russell's smile was cold and unyielding. Maybe not, but I can make sure you never get the chance to try again. And that's enough for me. Your server's principals value their anonymity above all else. Once they realize you can no longer provide the immortality they were promised, they'll abandon you to save themselves. The director's hand moved toward his desk drawer, likely containing a weapon, but Russell was faster. In one fluid motion, he closed the distance between them, restraining the older man with practiced efficiency. I could kill you now, Russell said softly, his grip firm but not yet lethal. It would be easy, justified even, but death would be too merciful. He released the director, who stumbled back against his desk. Instead, you get to live with failure, Russell continued, watching as everything you've built crumbles around you. Your reputation, your fortune, your freedom, all gone. And the knowledge that a security consultant you dismissed as inconsequential was the architect of your destruction. The director's eyes burned with hatred, but Russell saw the fear beneath it, the recognition that he had been utterly outmaneuvered. We'll rebuild, the director said defiantly. This setback is temporary. Perhaps, Russell acknowledged, but not in your lifetime. And if anyone ever approaches my daughter again, I will release the contingency files I prepared. Files that would interest not just the FBI, but several foreign intelligence agencies who would love to know about your government contracts. Russell checked the computer, confirming the program had completed its work. Goodbye, Director. I doubt we'll meet again. As he left the building, Russell felt a cold satisfaction. Brooks would soon discover his research corrupted beyond recovery and evidence of his crimes waiting to be discovered. Vanessa would face the consequences of her betrayal, losing her daughter and her position at Helix when the inevitable investigation began, and the director would watch his empire of exploitation collapse around him. 3 days later, Russell and Mia arrived at a new home, a comfortable house in a small coastal town in Maine, far from Boston and the memories it contained. Russell had liquidated his assets, established new identities for himself and Mia, and arranged for her continued medical care with specialists who knew nothing about Phoenix or Cerberus. As Mia explored her new bedroom, with the resilience only children possess, Russell watched from the doorway, his expression softening in a way it hadn't in weeks. Dom, who had helped with the relocation, stood beside him. "You think it's really over?" Dom asked. Russell nodded slowly. "Brooks is finished. The FBI raided his apartment yesterday after an anonymous tip about illegal human experimentation. Vanessa signed the divorce papers and took a research position in Europe. And the director," he smiled thinly, "let's just say his investors have lost confidence in his ability to deliver on his promises of immortality." "And Mia?" Dom asked. "Will she be okay?" Russell watched his daughter arranging her favorite books on a new shelf. "She's stronger than she looks. She'll adapt, just like she always does. She's got a good heart. And she's got me. That's all that matters." Dom clapped him on the shoulder. "You did good, Russell. You saved her." Russell nodded, his gaze never leaving Mia. "I did what any father would do. I protected my daughter. And I'll keep doing it, no matter what comes next." As the sun set over the quiet town, casting a warm glow through the windows, Russell felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in months. The battle was over, and they had won. Now, it was time to heal and move forward together. The genetic changes are permanent, but stable. She'll need monitoring, but Dr. Cortez believes she'll live a normal life. What about the other effects? The neural patterns. Suppressed, not eliminated, Russell admitted. There will always be a shadow of Brooks in her DNA, but it's dormant now. Her mind is her own. Dom studied his friend carefully. "And you? Are you okay with all of this? The lives you've destroyed, the laws you've broken?" Russell's expression hardened again. "They tried to take everything from me. My daughter, my family, my very identity as her father. They deserved everything they got." He paused, watching Mia arrange her stuffed animals on her new bed. "I'll never forgive them for what they did. Never." "And Mia, will you tell her the truth someday?" Russell considered this, a version of it, when she's old enough to understand. She deserves to know why we left Boston, why her mother isn't in our lives anymore. But not everything, Dom guessed. "No," Russell agreed quietly. "Not everything." As Dom left to return to Boston, Russell joined Mia in her room, helping her organize her collection of seashells on a windowsill overlooking the ocean. "Do you like our new house?" he asked. Mia nodded enthusiastically. "I can hear the waves at night, and you said I can start a new school soon." "Once Dr. Cortez says you're ready," Russell confirmed. "Maybe in a few weeks." "Will Mom visit us here?" Mia asked innocently. Russell's expression remained carefully neutral. "No, sweetheart. Mom needs to be very far away for her new job, but you and I are going to be just fine together." As Mia returned to arranging her shells, Russell gazed out at the ocean, thinking about the impossible truth that had been revealed in that hospital X-ray. A truth that had destroyed his old life, but ultimately failed to destroy what mattered most: his daughter's future and his love for her. The world had learned a harsh lesson about crossing Russell Sullivan. He was not a man who forgave betrayal, not a man who showed mercy to those who threatened what was his. Everyone who had conspired against him had paid a devastating price. Their careers, their freedom, their very identities stripped away, just as they had attempted to do to Mia. And if anyone ever threatened them again, he would respond with the same ruthless efficiency and absolute commitment. Because while much had changed, one thing remained constant. Russell Sullivan protected what was his, and heaven help anyone who stood in his way.